Alright, today I'm going to show you how to make a hot wire cutter for foams, and you can also use it on very thin plastics. It is a little difficult, but it's mainly used for foam. There are some heavier duty hot wire cutters that you can use on plastics, thicker plastics. Alright, these are the tools and supplies that you're going to need. Also a razor blade or a box cutter is helpful. Okay, so we got some wire cutters, crimping tool. This is probably the most specialized tool that's here. Most of these tools people have in their houses. A drill and some bits. You don't need this many bits. You just need 2 different sizes of bits for your bolts that I have here. Just a couple different sizes of bolts in there. And then some connectors that are for crimping, and these ones are insulated. A plug-in, not a plug-in, sorry, power cord that you can plug into the wall. This one has an equipment ground on it, but a good long size is good, so you have a lot of mobility with your cord. And then a piece of wood. And then to cut the foam, you're going to need nichrome wire, which is a resistance wire, and this is 26 gauge. You can also use 24 gauge, which is a little bit thicker and won't bend as easily as this one, but I'd like to use 26 gauge because it doesn't eat up as much as your foam. You're also going to need a 12-volt battery because you can't just plug this into the wall so it'll just pop. Electrical tape and 5-min epoxy. Alright, let's start building this thing. Okay, first thing is the piece of wood here. This is just a small piece of old wood that I have. It's a good size that will fit in your hand because this is going to be part of your handle and the bow for the cutting tool. I'm going to start by cutting this to an 18-inch long piece and then a 7-inch long piece. Okay, so here are my 2 pieces. This is the handle piece and then this is the bow piece. I decided to make the handle piece a little bit longer. I went 9 inches instead of 7. 7 inches would have been here, and that's not that much handle to hold on to. So I went up to 9 inches. And as you can see, so what I'm going to make, the handle is going to attach to the bow at the center here. So it's like a T, and you can hold the handle here, and the hot wire part will be up here. I'm going to real quick attach the handle here to the bow just by toe-nailing a little screw in there. Alright, as you can see here, I have toe-nailed that teeny little screw in through there. So now I have a handle that is attached to the bow part. Next part is to make the heating element that will go across right here. Okay, so I've got my bolts here, and what I'm going to do is make 2 posts for the bolts that will come off of the ends here. So then you have your bolt posts out here, so then you can run your heating element along through here. Now it's time to attach the posts. You can just toe nail them with a small screw or nail, and they should stay on there pretty well. You can also, if you want extra stability, if you're going to use it a lot, add a little bit of wood glue in between there. But make sure to let it dry completely before using your hot wire cutter. Alright, I got the 2 posts attached. As you can see, I used some pretty large headed screws there, but should hold. I noticed that the piece of wood that I have is warped, so the line won't be straight, but that you just have to remember that where you're cutting, you should always just cut just a little bit farther away from your drawn out line where you wanted to cut. Alright, next step is to place the bolt inside of the post here. Find a drill bit size that's about the same size as the bolt head here, and then just smash your bolt head in there. Make sure your holes are the same height. Put a little Sharpie mark on your bit to how deep you drilled on the other one right there. I don't know if you can really see that, but I can. And that should, you just stop at that black line and you won't go any deeper than the other hole, so your bolts are at the same height. As you can see here, it does wiggle back and forth a little bit. So I'm just going to put some 5-minute epoxy down in there on both sides. And it should be enough to keep it from wiggling back and forth. Alright, I've set my bolts into the epoxy here. So just some 5-minute epoxy. It's pretty much already dried. I also put a little bit at the joints down here on this so there's not as much wiggle. So now this doesn't move around and it's nice and secure. Alright, now comes the electrical wiring part here. So this is just the old power cord here, and this is from a piece of equipment, so this is the equipment ground. You're not going to need this one, so once we're done we'll just cut this one off. All you're going to need is the positive and the negative, and you're going to want to strip back the outer casing to the entire length of from the top of the bolt of 1 to where the handle meets the bow. So just start stripping that back to that length. Next, just remove the outer housing, the excess, just right there, cut it off. Next, we're gonna clean up these ends here so we can attach them by crimping them with the connector pieces. Alright, next you're going to find the right size connector here that fits over, see this is the same bolt that I have on there, fits over the top of that, and has a little bit of wiggle room because we're going to use a double nut system to connect that in place. Alright, these connectors are now crimped on there. For an extra measure to keep them on there, I'm just going to wrap some electrical tape around there. You're going to start by pitting on your bottom nut here. Whoops, there we go. Now I'm going to pit it at about that height there. Actually, I might go up a little. There we go. Okay. And now you're just going to slip your wire over the top there. And that's the first part for that side. And then repeat that on the other side. Alright, next you're going to take your nichrome wire and you're going to wrap it once around this bolt. Take your length, go up to your next bolt, wrap it around there once, and then cut it to the size. Make sure it's relatively tight with just a little bit of give to it. Because if it's too tight, it may just snap. But if it's too loose, it's just going to bend and not cut very evenly. Alright, now that you got your wire going up between the two, you're going to top it off by pitting another bolt on top, sandwiching that whole section together. We got to do some wire management and get this wire nice and tight to the wood here so we don't have wires all over the place. Alright, before you secure anything else, chop off your equipment ground here. Alright, I've added one more thing. I added some more tape that continues down here, so I don't have the cord going all over the place down here. Alright, next is to get this to be able to attach to the battery. So just cut right off at the connection here. Alright, now that you've cut the plug-in part, you can strip the housing back to the length of where it will reach both sides of the battery terminals. Alright, prepare this. Cut off your housing, extra housing, and your equipment ground. And then now we're going to attach two more connectors that are larger, that will slip over the bolts on the terminals, so then electricity can pass into the hot wire. Alright, it's time to test this sucker. Just slip these over there. You can take the wing nuts off, so then you can easily see now it's fired up here. Quick disclaimer: it's a battery, so don't touch the terminals at the same time. And then don't touch the bolts here. These are the posts of death, because those will shock the crap out of you because those are electrified. And then the wire, don't touch the wire because that's hot. And it's also electrified. But you'll notice that once the wire gets hot, it gets looser. So if you want to try to fix that, just tighten the wire as tight as possible. But it should still cut just the same. If it's really loose, you're not going to be able to cut a very straight line. And you're just going to have a wiggly cut and you're going to ruin whatever you're cutting. Let's do a test. Make sure when you're cutting with the Hotwire that you do this in a really well ventilated area. Cut through that pretty well. There's a little bit of smoke from the plastic on there. You want to do this well ventilated area because that stuff is toxic and not very good to breathe in. So, alright, a couple things I do to make this better is use some nicer wood and find a better way to secure the wires. It could be running them through the inside of the wood, or finding something else like cable ties to secure these two there. I do have cable ties, but I just had the electrical tape on hand. And then also to find a way to protect yourself from these posts, and install a deadman switch, so if something does go wrong you don't have to run over to the battery and pull it off. Or if you do shock yourself, you have a way to quickly turn it off. Okay, if this video was helpful or you enjoyed it, leave a like on this video, and I have some more videos kind of like this on my channel and some other videos that you might enjoy. So go check out my channel and subscribe.